Hello everyone, welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I'm your host, Stan Rattan, aka Stan the Wine Man, and this is the Blue Collar Wine Show where I try to help you spend your wine dollars wisely. And today I have the privilege of having Basi Rodriquez. Thanks for coming on the show. Basi has his own import company called Casa Ventura Imports, and sort of a one-man show with his wife helping out. So Basi, I guess, tell the story of Casa Ventura. Why did you get started? How long ago did you get started, and why, and what's your goal?
We started 8 years ago now, and my wife is from this area, from the Northwest. She's from Belgium, and her mother has been in the wine business for over 20 years, for a very long time. And when I met my wife back in Europe, I was working at a bank at the time, and my whole family is from wine country in Spain, from La Mancha, the largest wine region in the world. And
La Mancha?
La Mancha,
yeah.
Which accounts for over 50% of all the wine made in Spain, and it's huge. And so we have a lot of friends in the wine business in Spain, and everything kind of fall together perfectly. You know, we had the connections there, we had the insight here, and 8 years ago we moved here to Belgium, and we started.
All right. Now, how often do you go over to Spain?
That is the greatest part of my business. I get to go every 9 months or so, and sometimes a little more, depending if I have to bring over a buyer, if there's some particular trade show that I want to be at. But every 9 months or so, I'd say.
Now, I know there's a big trade show in Spain. What's it called? I know they do a big one over there.
There's several. There's one called Fenavin, which is very big, and it's probably not as international as others, but that's the biggest as far as number of wineries attending. And then Alimentaria in Barcelona, that's every 2 years. That's a very big show too. Of course, Madrid Fusion, which is a big culinary and wine show in Madrid every year. That's an excellent show too.
Okay.
So there's plenty of opportunities to go and taste wine and great food. So.
Cool. Now, you were telling me there's like 4,000 wineries in Spain.
About, yes.
Yeah, and it's got to be tough to go, because you got Jorge Ordóñez, who's a huge importer there. You've got all these other guys, I can't, Ole Imports, there's all these different guys vying for business. Do you find it very difficult to find brands that you think you should bring into the United States?
Well, I've seen two very clear philosophies in wineries as far as what they want to do for exports and for the U.S. in particular. And there are some wineries that are really concentrating their efforts in making wine that appeals to the American palate, because that's when American sells. And there are a lot of wineries that are still doing things like they have always done, and just assuming that what they show in the region is going to be what people want in the U.S. and anywhere. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for wineries that are not trying to market something specifically for the U.S. or for any other markets, but they're trying to show their cultural heritage, their soils, their varieties, and just show what they are and what they have always been.
Okay, and I know that, for example, it's pretty well known, I don't think it's a trade secret, that Jorge does have a lot of influence in the types of wines that he wants shipped to the U.S. I mean, he's very specific about, you know, getting them a little more fruit forward, a little more powerful on the palate, a little higher alcohol. So you're saying basically that you try to just find wineries that express terroir of the land, stick to the old world kind of mineral-driven wines.
Right. Yes. You know, there's no denying how much good Jorge Ordóñez has done for Spanish wine in the U.S.
Sure.
I mean, absolutely. He started in the 80s when nobody knew anything about Spanish wines, and has done a terrific job promoting our wines in this country. We might have a little bit of a different philosophy in the way that he has his own team of winemakers that influence the way their wines are made, and I am looking for that winemaker that has several generations behind him and knows what the land is capable of doing, and he's trying to show precisely that, you know.
Sure.
And so a little different philosophy, but terrific wines in both cases.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I have no problem with some of the wines that he brings in, and certainly, like Robert Parker, you know what you're going to get when you open the bottle, which is fine as long as you know, right? As long as you know. So you think that you have a fairly delineated flavor profile that you're looking for? Like, do you feel like you have? There's a personality like Basi's personality is really part of what you're looking for?
I mean, there's no way avoiding that because there's a suggestion of one person picking wines, obviously. But Spain is so regional and so different. There's so many different areas with so many different climates and soils that the wines are going to be different whether I want it or not.
Yeah.
And I might have my preferred wines or preferred regions, but what I'm truly obsessed with is finding that man that knows their land and has some generations of background of making wine and shows really what that region is meant to show, with their varieties that have been adjusted to that soil for centuries in many cases. And that's kind of my obsession.
Is it hard to walk up to a winery and, I'm just curious because, you walk into a winery, you taste through their wines. How do you go about the process of actually saying, hey, I'd like to import your wines into the United States? Is that a difficult process or?
It's actually easy because, as you probably know, the economy in Spain is not very good. It hasn't been very good for a long time. The wine consumption keeps going down year after year. And so most wineries need to export as much as possible in order to survive. And the American market is great. It's a big market that keeps growing and growing every year. And most wineries, if they don't already have somebody that is importing the wines, they're really excited about having somebody that lives here and that can represent their wines. So that's actually an easy part.
All right. So is Spain going through the same thing that France is going through as far as the younger generation is kind of switching over to beer as their beverage of choice and leaving wine in the background? Is that what's happening?
Spain has a fairly good tradition of light beer drinking, and spirits too. It's a big country of spirits drinking. I mean, #1 consumer of Scotch in the world.
Okay.
And up there in gin and some others. So wine consumption used to be in Spain 75, 78 liters per person 20 years ago, 20, 25 years ago. And we are roughly 20 liters now per person.
Wow.
So it's a big drop. There are several reasons why we drink better wine. There's not as many wineries making volume, very cheap wine. There's more people interested in high quality wines and they're willing to spend more money, but the amount is smaller, obviously.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 4 wines here that you are importing. The first one we're going to do is a cava called Marquis de la Concordia.
Marqués de la Concordia, that's right.
I can't say it as well as you do. And this one, we $14.99 retail. We're not going to make that mistake again. I got this camera in the back. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, you can see that label. There it is. Now, what made you gravitate towards this particular cava producer? You probably like going over to Penedès over there near Barcelona.
Yes,
on the coast. I would go there all the time.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area, and about 95% of all the cava made in Spain comes from this region. Cava is the only appellation in Spain that doesn't refer to a region but to a way of making wine. And when the DO was first created, there were a number of towns throughout Spain that were making cava and labeling it as cava, and it was decided that it was not fair to leave these towns, these producers, out of the appellation. So you have a number of towns in Rioja, in Valencia, in Extremadura, in La Mancha, that are allowed to produce cava and label it as cava.
Okay.
But about 95% of all cava comes from Penedès, the Penedès region.
Sure.
And something really strange that is happening is that you can make cava in Penedès, which is the birth of cava, but you can't use the word Penedès in the label. So there are a number of cava producers that are switching to Penedès DO instead of cava DO, just so that they can use the name of the the region that
Sure,
they're
sure, interesting.
Yeah.
That could create some confusion.
Yes, definitely. It's bound to create some confusion. We have some wine coming from a very old, fantastic cava producer that is now going to be a Penedès producer, but it's made in the same way, same region, same varieties.
Okay. So what are the varieties used in this particular cava?
So most of the times in Penedès we use the three white varieties from the region: Macabeo, Xarel·lo, and Parellada. And in this case, there's also some Chardonnay.
Okay. That's what I thought when I was smelling it.
Yeah, and
it has that nice rounder kind of. There's a lot of apples and pears on the nose.
Definitely green apple and pear.
I was hoping you were going to say Chardonnay because I'm thinking, man, this has got to have some Chardonnay.
Yes.
Which I appreciate that they've allowed that particular variety into the cava.
Yes, and they also make a rosé where they use Monastrell and Pinot Noir. So this winery it's a very old winery. They've been making wine for over 130 years, making cava. And this particular cava that we're tasting is their family reserve. It's the 2009 vintage.
Okay.
And it's made like champagne, so it's a traditional method that we call. So there's a fermentation. There's a second fermentation inside of this same bottle, which creates the bottle with fermentation stuff. And it spends 48 months in the bottle after the second fermentation. So very, very long aging, and that's what gives it that nice yeasty and nutty and complex aromas that only with a long aging you can get.
This has a really nice acidity to it, and very interesting little honey aspect that lingers on the back of the palate. But this stuff is fantastic. I mean, I want a pile of oysters right now.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's got a fantastic minerality at the end. Very good acidity. It stays in your mouth for a little bit. It makes it really good for all kinds of seafood, oysters. It's terrific with it.
Loads of lemon, yeast, really good stuff. I was listening. I don't know. I think I was talking to somebody about cava. They're trying to edge the price up a little bit because they're practically giving it away. You got Cristalino selling it for what, $8.49, $7.49 a bottle.
Yes.
Retail, you have some of these, a lot of $10 cavas, and he said they're slowly trying to get it up because if you think about it, to do a method champagne or traditional method, where you're riddling and
it's
disgorging and dosage, all that's a huge. This is a 2009.
Yeah, and this is no dosage actually. This is Brut Nature. I forgot to mention that.
It's what? Brut
Nature, as we call it in Spain. So it means that there's no dosage.
There's no dosage.
And you're right, there are several big houses, like Cristalino, as you said, Freixenet, and some others that are selling their cavas really, really well. And cava, just to be able to label as cava, it has to be 9 months in the bottle of second fermentation. That's by law, that's the minimum.
Crazy.
So it costs a lot of money, and for little houses, it's impossible to compete with these producers. Still, for a 48-month aging,
what are you kidding? $14.99. $14.99 is a steal. And when you say no dosage, it means you didn't add any sugar.
That's right.
You did put
sugar.
You did fill it back up after disgorgement with just still alcohol.
With still alcohol.
Yeah. So no. So basically, the sugar is what, 5 grams or less?
It's less than 5 grams. It's just under 4 actually.
Just under 4. Okay. So very dry, which I know a lot of you guys appreciate. Very dry. Get a little rinse here. And excellent cava.
I love cava.
The same quality out of champagne would easily be $25-30.
Absolutely, yeah.
Just to put it in perspective.
Despite the fact that cava is everywhere, I think it should be the new discovery from Spain because cava's
the quality is definitely get
quality
better.
is fantastic and the price is still a great value.
All right, so now we're moving on to Pardavalles.
Pardavalles is the winery.
Albarine.
Albarine is the variety.
Okay.
Not to be confused with Albarino.
Okay. And Blanco, and this rolls in at $18. Get a close up for you. There you go. So so it doesn't have an O at the end, so it's not Albarino, it's Albarine. How many of you out there have heard of Albarine? This is my first time.
It's a very obscure wide variety from the northwest of Spain. So you know Alvarinho is in Rías Baixas, which is
Right.
Galicia, right north of Portugal on
Okay,
the
yeah.
Atlantic. Alvarinho grows in
Terra de Leon.
León, that's right, north of León, and in Asturias, which is east of Galicia,
Okay.
several hours east. And this is a variety that is really interesting, it's very unique, and it was almost extinct up to probably the 1940s when the grandfather of the current owner of this winery decided to do whatever he could to bring it back
Okay.
in the region. Today they have 30 hectares left of Alvarin, and it's doing a little bit of a comeback, especially in that region and in the Madrid area. We all are very thankful that he thought this way and he wanted to maintain this variety because it's terrific. It's a great
I'm very curious to try it. Great nose. It has a little bit of that. I'll spare you that. A lot of cut grass. A lot of cut grass. A lot of lemon. I get a little bit of a sweaty armpit. Not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
This
Might be me.
could be me. I always find that's a very. I know it's so hard when you're doing wine descriptors. I put that on the sign in my store, and people understand because they understand that I'm trying to relay
Yes.
something that they will get out of it, but it isn't a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like with wine, because it's got yeast and it's got all those things going on, you're going to get some of those
Yes.
those qualities, and they're not a bad
They're
thing.
not a bad thing. They just come from either the fermentation or from the aging process, and they just add complexity to the wine, which you want. You want something
Sure.
else other than just fruit. You want something else. You want good acidity. You want aromas of. Like here, you have really clear, freshly cut grass, like you said, or herbal notes.
A lot of whetstone in there.
Yeah.
I always-
really mineral, whetstone, and,
Yeah.
and very mineral. Which
Which you expect from an old world.
yeah. I get a little bit of an apricot scent to it, white
Yeah,
peach.
tangerine maybe a little bit. Yeah. I always on my blog, I've done this many times. I compare the complexity of wine to the complexity of a hamburger. You can have a plain hamburger, nothing on it. You start adding things to that hamburger, and it makes it more complex. Some people like blue cheese on their hamburger, and you can't tell me that blue cheese always smells that great, but it sure tastes good.
Yeah.
And I think that's how I try to help people understand that the smells that you get out of wine are not bad things.
I like the how unique this wine is and the how really well made it is. You know, in a wine we hear sometimes about the wines being drowned, and it's something that we not so often listen about white wines, but they have to be drowned. Truly, you have to have your fruit aromas and your aging aromas and your acidity and your alcohol all well integrated. And this is a perfect example of a brown wine that shows everything at the same time without any ages.
No, it's a beauty. It's got that good minerality. It's got that cut grass. It's got I get a little bit of grapefruit pith going on, but good fruit, very dry, but not so. I mean, the lemon and grapefruit pith and lemon pith just linger on the back end. I mean, I'm still tasting it. Which all of us that are looking for, if you're looking for a white wine that's different but still delicious, I mean that fits right into that category.
It also has a slight petrol finish, like a Riesling would have. Obviously not as pronounced, but just a slight petrol in the end that makes it a little more complex. Really,
Sort of on the back of the mid palate.
yeah.
You do get that hit. Very interesting. Good wine. I never grade wines on the program just because I don't think you can do a fair job with the guy sitting right next to you.
Yes.
Crying out loud. But both of them are excellent values.
And we're going to move on now to Rioja, which is probably the most famous wine region in Spain, and using Tempranillo as in this wine as.
Is it 100% or does it have some Grenache in it?
It has a little bit of Grenache and a little bit of Mazuelo, which is really called Cariñena or Carignan in this
Oh,
region.
that's, yeah.
But 95% is Tempranillo.
Okay. Let's get a shot of this label. This is
Belezos.
$19? Yeah. Oops. There we go. Okay, see that label there? $19. And this is a Crianza, so it's been in barrel at least 1 year.
That's right. The minimum for Crianza in Rioja is 12 months.
Okay.
This particular winery uses normally 2 to 3 months more than the regular 12 months.
Okay.
This particular vintage is 14 months. 14 months, and mostly American oak, which is the traditional
They love
Rioja.
American oak.
They love American oak. They do have some French oak that is also used, but it's mostly oak.
Yeah. And what part of Rioja is this? I know there's like 3 or 4.
Yeah, we have the Rioja Baja, which is the southeast of the region, and it has parts of Navarra as the political region of Navarra, and then Rioja Alta is in the northern part, and then Rioja Alavesa is in fact inside of the Basque country.
Yes.
That's the very north of the Rioja as a wine appellation, and that's where this wine comes from. So inside the Basque country and in the very north of Rioja as a wine.
So this has a classic leather and cherries and currants.
Really distinct leather, tobacco leaf, cherry
red flowers.
cherry pie, and
Great nose, really.
and again we're in a
Very feminine. I mean,
very elegant. It's really
Yeah.
really elegant. It's one of these ones that invites you to another sip immediately after
Oh,
the
yeah.
one.
Absolutely.
Really well balanced, nice acidity. Wines in Rioja have a little bit of a marked acidity, especially in the Tempranillos, and that makes them terrific wines for food. This is a great wine with lamb,
Oh.
with
Be great with salmon, I think, because it's soft enough.
Yes,
The tannins are soft enough that it could actually go with some different varieties of food.
that's right. Yeah. And this is again a case where the winery, they have been making wine for several generations. The 4th generation of the winery is now working the land, and they do a terrific job with everything they do. But this Crianza, I think, is the terrific example of a classic Rioja in a very, very plain cut in the way that it's not over oaky like some other more traditional houses tend to do their Crianza. So being classic, it's a very clean, very nice and fruity.
I mean,
with some minerals in the end too, and
what I think a lot of people will like about it, don't mean to interrupt you, but I think a lot of people will like it because it gets away from that kind of funky, leathery stink that you get. A lot of Riojas get that. I like that, but I know a lot of people kind of like,
you have a little bit of that too here.
There's a little bit of it, but it's not a dominant part of the flavor.
It's not. It's not. It's really well blended with that cherry pie and some floral notes. We were
good minerality on the back end, a little bit of that crushed brick thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
Nice stuff. Yeah, it really is.
This is one of the examples of cultural heritage that we were talking about earlier. You know, families that have been making wine for generations and that really understand their land.
Yeah, that is definitely not made for the jelly bean society there.
No.
Which I appreciate, you know.
You know, the first time that we brought in this wine, the Rioja Belezos, we used a label, which was the label that I saw when I first met the people at the winery. And it was a very modern, kind of shiny, silver-colored label. And in my next visit to the winery, I saw this terrific plastic label, and I said, wait a minute, what is that? Oh, that's our Crianza. That's the same wine that you have. But why you send it to me? That's awful silver, shiny label when you have this beautiful label. Oh, I'm sorry. We thought that the American market would prefer something more modern. No, you're Rioja. We want to show.
Yes, exactly.
100%. Yeah.
Good for you. So this is a Varinas Monastrell from Jumilla, and this rolls in at $16. All right.
That's right.
So this label, there's a story behind this. The one of the guys that works at King's Market with me, his father designed this label. Randy Clark?
Randy Clark.
The fish guy?
Fish boy, yeah.
Fish boy, that's it. So that's kind of cool. He lives up in Bellingham. This is a 2009. Humilla is down in the south of Madrid.
It's in the southeast. Yeah.
Southeast,
it's
yeah.
Probably about 6 hours south of Barcelona along the Mediterranean.
The capital of Monastrell or Mourvedre.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mourvedrix. Always leave the R out for something.
Yeah. That's the French name, but let's not forget the Monastrell is
the original.
Native to Spain.
I know, you guys paid Janice Robinson big bucks to tell everybody that. We just want them to know that Mourvedre, Monastrell, Mateo, they're all the same.
They're all the same.
Yes.
And there is a city north of Valencia in Spain that the old name of the city is Mourvedre. And the French gave this wine that name because they were buying most of it coming out of this port in north of Valencia.
Nice story.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
So this is again a very old family, one of the oldest families in Humilla that are still making wine, fourth generation also. And 2-3 years ago they changed their packaging to something again that was a little too modern for me, not really showing the heritage of the region. And Randy Clark has been a friend of mine for many years, and he has always said that he wanted to do a label for me. And so we combined forces, and he has guarding us.
Nice, I like it. And it's changed since the last one, so very interesting. I've stacked this wine before at the store, so I've always liked it, and I always. Monastrell to me always has that kind of grape jam sort of nose. I mean, it just has it just reminds me of Welch's grape jam for some reason.
Yes, no, you're totally right. Monastrell, this is a very
some rose petal thrown in.
Yeah, and I always like to describe it as a very Mediterranean wine. You know, it's really has that warmth that southern Mediterranean wines have. And Monastrell is a variety that is very charming in its own. Lots of blackberries and really floral, and of course it has that.
It still has that wet stone sort of thing going on.
Yes.
That earthiness.
Earthiness to it, really spicy, really good earth notes.
Yeah, definitely. See, I like that one because it has such good balance. I mean, some of these Monastrells from Humilla can just, overpowering on the palate. I mean, it's almost like you can clear your sinuses with the alcohol.
That's right. Yeah, and again, it might be situations where wineries are trying to accommodate their style to a modern style, which, don't get me wrong, there's nothing bad about it.
No,
but
there's an audience for everyone.
Yeah, but to me, styles change, and and today we like wines that are one way, and tomorrow we like wines that are some other way.
Sure.
But wines in Humilla that are the way that we made for centuries should not change. And they are their best when they're representing that heritage and that history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because as a wine drinker, and I'm not pigeonholing anyone, but if you're drinking Spanish wine, at least in my case, I want it to be old world. Because that's, Spain is old world. If I'm drinking Napa wine, I know I'm going to get New World. Washington wine, I know I'm going to get New World. Australia, New World. New Zealand, New World. But when you're drinking Spain or France or Italy, you want...
Yeah, you want to be able to taste
that's
the
why,
place and the...
Well, that's why one of the reasons I think that wine buyers buy what they do. But it is nice to have those Monastrells out there that kind of break people into it, and maybe they go, okay, I really like that wine, it's big, bold, let me try a new one, they try yours, and they go, wait a minute, is this the same wine?
Yeah.
But it is a nice way to get them to break into Spanish wine.
Mm-hmm. And this is a wine that people that are used to New World wines are going to enjoy very much.
Yeah.
Plenty of blackberries and blueberries.
Yeah, absolutely. Has that good acidity though that I like.
Acidity and
perfect for food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how spicy it is.
Mm-hmm.
And really good earth notes.
Yeah, there's definitely a core of blackberries, blueberries that would appeal to them. Nice lineup.
Good.
Very good wines. Very good wines. So
Thank you very much.
we're going to put your link up on the website, CasaVenturaImports.com.
Excellent.
I'll put that link down there. And thank you for coming,
Thank you.
Basi. Nice meeting you.
You too.
Excellent wine. So if you're looking for good representations of Spanish wines from the old world that will appeal to a lot of palates, look on the back and check out the Casa Ventura Import moniker. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Cheers. I don't have any wine, but cheers. Here's to keeping the snob out of wine.
Yes.